Thank you for tuning in to watch our Invest Greater Fort Lauderdale 8th Edition Leadership Summit. You're about to watch the experience economy, how Broward turned tourism and entertainment into a year-round competitive advantage. And if you enjoyed this panel, subscribe for more. We're bringing you leadership conversations from CEOs from across the country, one city at a time.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. How's everybody? You guys doing good? Information overload? All right, Stacy, welcome. Nice to have you. Looking forward to having a conversation with you. We're in trouble, you and I. Everything that you and I were going to talk about was already discussed.
Figure it out. We'll figure it out.
You know, I'll tell you, we cannot talk about the convention center hotel. Thank you. We cannot talk about airports. We cannot talk about the ports. We cannot talk about afternoon naps, siestas. We cannot talk about P3s. We cannot talk about P4s.
P3s.
And I mean, it's just a crazy thing what we have left here to talk about. So it's going to be interesting.
Visit Lauderdale.
You see, at Visit Lauderdale, we actually do P5s. Public, private, philanthropic, patrons, partnership. You got it?
I'm glad he remembered when I told him that.
I know, you know, because at the end of the day, and I want you in our discussion, maybe wear all of your hats that you had in this incredible career that you had, right? And maybe the first question for the audience is, why is tourism so important? You were in Tallahassee, right? And you understand why the visitors are so important here and why the visitors are so important actually here to Broward County. Maybe have that hat on for just a little bit. What benefits the residents of Florida and Broward County actually have by having visitors here? So if you could maybe talk about that a little bit.
Sure, thank you. Hi, everybody. So I would tell you that my 8 years in Tallahassee as a state representative, nobody cares about tourism in Tallahassee. They care about the residents who vote for them, and tourists don't vote. And while they'll fund Visit Florida because they feel that they have to, because people like us will go up and tell them they have to, they don't really understand why it is so critically important that we have visitors here. And you know, tourism is Florida's #1 industry. Tourism is Broward County's #1 industry. And while we all spend winter months complaining about the traffic because we see all these New York and Canadian license plates, and we complain that we can't get into our favorite restaurants, although you and I can get into any, let's speak really, you and I can get into any restaurant, but we can't get into your favorite restaurant because the visitors are there. The truth of the matter is, it's because these visitors come that people are employed. We alone cannot sustain the kind of industry that we have here in Broward County. There are 2 million of us in Broward, but we just can't sustain it. We need the 15, 16, 17 million people who come from all over the world to keep people employed. And I always try to bring it back to 6 years ago in 2020 during the pandemic. Does anybody remember the pandemic? Well, we remember it because tourism stopped. Everything shut down. It was brief before we reopened, but when everything shut down and visitors stopped coming, thousands of people lost their jobs. Nobody was going to restaurants. Nobody was staying in our hotels. Nobody was shopping. And people lost their jobs. So at the end of the day, our residents need to feed their families. They need to pay their mortgages. They need to fill up their tanks these days. And the reason they are able to do that is because tourists come and visit and spend their money. Broward has 2 million people. About 10% of Broward residents are employed directly or indirectly in tourism. That's 200,000 people who have regular paychecks because our visitors come and spend their time and spend their money. And that's why it's so critically important that we are friendly to them, that we tamp down all that frustration when they are sitting at a red light and they don't know wherever they come from that green beans go. But they are critically important to us.
Yeah, and I second everything that you say. You know, at the end of the day, there's no state income tax, you know, and we cannot talk about Hill Street Blues because that was already mentioned. But 1991, we can talk about other people's money, Danny DeVito, if for the ones that have gray hair, you understand what I'm talking about, right? And we love other people's money. We really do, because you hit the nail on the head. Because when you look at the backbone of our county, it's a small business, and every visitor makes sure that this small mom and pop restaurant is going to be able to operate year round if it wasn't for the visitors, because we all as residents probably not going to be able to keep that business going for them. Just think about that. Well, I want to pivot now to your role as Visit Lauderdale president and CEO, and you were bold. And a lot of times when you talk about a DMO, a destination marketing organization, we're not talking about investment. But boy, did you really shake the tree. And you went in blazing by changing the brand from Greater Fort Lauderdale Convention and Visitors Bureau to something new. And tell us about just this very bold move that you forced through quickly. I mean, it was lightning speed. You know, I woke up the next morning, the name was changed. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah,
the rebranding.
It was a 4-year overnight sensation. You know, permission, forgiveness. I'm a big, you know, forgiveness, and don't worry about the permission part. Once it's done, oops, it's done. So we, when I came into the role 10 years ago, you know, having served on the Broward County Board of County Commissioners for 10 years before that, where we have oversight over the CVB, although we don't get involved in the day-to-day, I had always thought, and look, everyone knows I didn't come from a marketing background. Everyone knows I didn't come from a tourism background. That was a big deal 10 years ago when I was offered the position. But I know what I like, and I'm a consumptive consumer. I like to spend money. And that's my money. And I also, by the way, like to spend tourist development tax dollars, but that's a whole nother, other people's money, but that's a whole nother conversation. But I had felt that we had become a much cooler, much edgier destination than Hello Sunny, which was our tagline. You know, and I when I was in the county commission, I represented Northwest Broward County, which had a condominium called Kings Point in it, which was overwhelmingly older Jews. Yeah, which I am actually now. And I remember thinking, Hello Sunny is like what they say to my son when I bring him to the Kings Point Democratic. Hello Sunny. And it just didn't sound like what I knew that we had become, which is beautifully diverse with a rich tapestry of multiculturalism. So I really wanted to change it. And so we spent, honestly, we spent 4 years doing the research. You don't brand without having the data, especially when you are doing something that you know some people will not like. You cannot do it without having the data behind you that shows everybody that this is the right way to go. And we did surveys and focus groups, and we had marketing consultants, and we spoke to people inside the destination, stakeholders inside the destination, residents inside the destination, as well as partners and stakeholders outside of Broward County. And we came down to one very, very simple, basic fact. Everybody knows the word Lauderdale. Nobody has a clue what Broward is. And you know, when I was a Broward County Commissioner, that would have been like, oh, you can't say that. We work so hard. But the truth of the matter is, when you are traveling or talking to people and they ask you where you are from, you don't say Broward County. You say your city, which is why the word Lauderdale rings in. They recognize it. So we thought, okay. You know, I'm crossing myself in my head because I'm Jewish and I can't cross myself. But I'm thinking, okay, we're crossing fingers and we're just going to do this. Greater Fort Lauderdale Convention Center was a mouthful. It was too long. By the time you told people what your agency was, they were like somewhere else. Their brains shut down, and there was no call to action. Visit, explore, discover. Those are calls to action, to telling people to do something proactive. So, you know, we did. We did it. We changed the name of the agency to Visit Lauderdale. It made some people very unhappy. It made others very, very happy. And for now, since we did this in 2022, so now we are 4 years in, and there comes a point in time where it's too late to go back. And I think we've reached that point of no return, and we are thrilled with it. It is easy. People recognize it. We have spent 4 years raising recognition, and it is now an internationally known brand, and we are very proud of that.
Yeah, I concur. I think it was bold, and I didn't expect it coming, but kudos to you. I mean, it was just amazing. 2003, your predecessor, Nikki, met with a group of hoteliers at my hotel, then the Renaissance on 17th Street. And she started farming. She started farming and said, we need a convention center hotel. And I thought my fellow hoteliers would be there with pom-poms cheering her on. And good Lord, did that not happen. There was just so much concern and no's coming. But when I look at your role, right, because you were on both sides of the roles. You were on the commission, and then you were the president in order to bring this baby over the finish line. I mean, we were in the operating room 4 times in order to give birth to this child until it just went over the finish line at the commission and voting. Tell us a little about it, and what impact does this 801 room gorilla actually has, and what kind of impact does the expansion of the convention center really have? So tell us that story.
I think I think that the first go around was in the 90s with Don Peebles, who some people in this room may remember. And the plumbers, and I don't remember anyway, I was a baby, who remembers? But I'm just reading headlines in the archives now. But they started and it fell through. And then I think the second time was in between that and when we did it in 08 and 09, when I was on the commission and we had chosen a flag. And then the real estate market fell through the Great Recession, and that stopped that project. And so it took 10 years to get it back on, not quite 10 years, to get it back on a board agenda to move it forward. I never thought that I would be here in this position for the ribbon cutting for that. And while I don't take credit for it having happened, I mean, the board of county commissioners was all in on this $1.5 billion project, the biggest project in Broward County history that was done without anybody's taxes being raised. It's probably one of those, I say this a lot because I'm on the, I'm coming to the end here, that it's one of those chapters in the book that you write about how exciting it was to be here, to see that come out of the ground, and then to see the impact that it is having on booking conferences and conventions to the destination. It was surprising that not every hotelier in Broward County, especially on the east side, embraced it. They were all concerned it would suck business from them. And the argument was, no. They're going to stay at the Omni, and then that's going to fill up, and then they're going to go to you in a compression is what I now know it's called, compression. And that is exactly what is happening. 17th Street and the beach are full when the Omni has a conference or convention. Just this week, we had 2 conventions in the same time. One of them was 7,000 people, just one. The other one was smaller, but you're talking about 10,000 people in the convention center using the Omni Hotel as their headquarters, and then using other hotels on 17th Street as the ancillary. We could never have, between the Omni and the expansion. So we built a 3-story east expansion right on the water. There's a huge ballroom on the 3rd floor, which overlooks the Intercoastal. Those are views you cannot find in any other convention center in this country. And it is amazing. We look at it every day. We don't even really see it anymore. But when you see it through visitors' eyes, you realize what an extraordinarily beautiful place we call home. So we have these large conventions coming in. We have an expanded exhibit hall on the 1st floor in the old building on the west, which allowed us to host IPW 3 weeks ago, which is the largest inbound international travel trade show in the world. We could never have hosted that before. This was the first time we were chosen as the host destination. 5,000 people from around the world. We had 60 countries, some of whom had never been here before. We were able to showcase the beauty of our destination. We had 0 rain. We had a sprinkle on opening night, which we did on the beach, and then a double rainbow came out over the water, and we are blessed. We are blessed. It is okay. We are doing well. It's just been, and our bookings for we're booking now through 2036. People are very optimistic about the future. I'm a glass half empty kind of girl, but they're very optimistic about the future. They're booking through 2036, and we are booking large conferences that could not and would not have come here without an attached hotel. The truth of the matter is, and I probably shouldn't say this, my boss will get mad, but I'm retiring next year, so what the hell? We could have built 1,000 rooms and we would have filled it. And we can. I won't be here, and I'm hoping someday somebody will put an extra two or three floors on top, but of the Omni. But we have groups that said they would not come back unless we built a hotel. They're coming back, large groups. And look, yes, traffic is on 17th Street. Yes. And I swear to God that bridge tender hates me because no matter what time of day I'm going over 17th Street, he's raising that goddamn bridge. He knows it's me, I think. He knows it's me. What, 12 and 12:30, my ass, 12 and 12:30. But it's extraordinary, and on all series, it's extraordinary the kind of growth, positive growth. Now, there are growing pains. Traffic is a problem, and the county, maybe Corey touched on it, has a plan, but as with all things government, it takes time, and we all have to be patient. But the growth, and to see the place that I've called home since 1974 become what it is today, I just think that's an extraordinary story, and that I didn't think anyone else could tell the way I could tell it when I was bold enough to go for this job 11 years ago.
Yeah. And Corey gave all the solutions already, so we have no problems for the future. Jetsons. It's a new marketing theme that we're going to. But the bypass helps. I mean, if you have not used the bypass, use the bypass. The people mover will help tremendously and will alleviate a lot of the traffic that's out there. The next section that I really want to talk about is the Big Bang Theory, because I see some people that don't have gray hair. So for the ones that know what the Big Bang Theory is, that's what she started doing. When I take a look what Stacy started doing, she started to say we need to have big impacts and we need to be seen on the big screens per se. And when you take a look what Stacy did, and I want her to talk a little bit about some of these ideas, totally out of the box, whether it was in Las Vegas doing IMAX, I think, the Theater, when we talk about the Rose Parade, when we talk about New York and the ball drop, but even IPW affiliations with FIFA, and then also with Formula One. That's my mom. That's my mom. Thanks, Mom. But talk about your big bangs, because those are big nuggets, and other DMOs, even the state DMO, got in trouble for that. So talk about the big banks and how we got this out there. It's ballsy, by the way.
Well, I have them. And then they're pretty hard and they're pretty brassy. So there's that. But I
had a visual.
Again, there is some freedom in announcing your retirement date. I am a big believer in doing things that no one else is doing and trying. Not everything that you try will work, but failure is an option. We have all failed, but trying is never not an option. You have to try something, because something that you try will work. And I'm very fortunate that I have a team that is willing to follow me. I think they are anyway. Sometimes I look behind and there's nobody there, but okay. That they're willing to follow me. Nikki Mohan's in the room. She's our VP of community outreach and community engagement. Yes, absolutely. Nikki's doing an extraordinary job, and they are willing to go. And so I thought, well, what is nobody else doing? And the Rose Parade was, I would love to say that I sat there and I thought for months about what we can do, but I was watching I love the Rose Parade. I grew up on the Rose Parade, and I was watching it in, I want to say 2021, 22, and Louisiana had a float. The state had a float, and I thought, well, we should do that. And we did. And we went through, but before we did sign the check and board gave us the money, we did an ROI study. And that's how you don't get in trouble. If you can justify your return on investment with your numbers, which are hard to argue with, some people will, I know, But if you have the ROI that tells you that it is a good investment, then do it, regardless of what other. And I know not everybody loved it. A lot of people thought I was crazy. A lot of people thought I was stupid and was only going to get us in trouble. I don't live to get people in trouble. I don't mind it when it happens, but I don't live for it. But I knew we had the numbers. And at the end of the day, the Rose Parade, which was a media buy that came with a float. I know the state loves to say, oh, they bought a float for $1 million. That is not what we did. We did a media buy that came with a float. We had 2.5 minutes on air, just us, during the middle of the Rose Parade when everybody was watching, not the beginning, not the end. We had the prime spot in the middle, just us, a float that represented the destination. It was, we were very intentional about who we put on the float. We put a representative of the Seminole tribe, Miss Seminole. We put Stanley C. Panther and Bill Lindsay, who's a veteran Panther player. We put the Broward County School Principal of the Year because public education is very important to me. My kids and I are raised on it and should be important to every single one of us, who just also happened to be the principal of Piper High School, which was my alma mater, which was a total coincidence. And then we had Stuart Milk, who is Harvey Milk's nephew, who runs the Stuart Milk Foundation, because the LGBT community has always been pivotal to who and what we are. They are part of the diversity and spend a ton of money when they visit us. So we were very intentional about that, and it turned out to be an over 800% ROI. So hard to argue with. The same thing with CNN. We did New Year's Eve. I like Andy and Anderson on New Year's Eve. I think there were riots when they get drunk, and Anderson Cooper never drinks until New Year's Eve, and he's just hysterical. And I thought, so many people are watching them. We were doing a new campaign. We were rebranding in the process. I thought, you know what? And the Keys had done it the past 3 years, and I'm like, well, we're certainly more interesting than the Keys. They had a drag queen come down in a shoe off a second-story building. I'm like, we can do something. We're Visit Lauderdale. So we stole it from the Keys. On December 31st of last year, we did a 3-minute segment on a yacht because we are the yachting capital of the world. And it was seen by hundreds of millions of people, both live and streaming. And that's the beauty of these, is they don't die once the TV gets turned off. They're on streaming. IPW, 3 years ago, we're like, well, we're going to have a hotel by then. We hope. The hotel's only been open for a few months. We were really nervous that the hotel wouldn't be open in time, but we were like, you know what? Let's go bid for IPW. They're looking for different cities. It's always in LA or Orlando or Vegas. Let's try something new. And we pulled it off, I think, with flying colors. So the only, and not all of these is there direct heads and beds to spend. With IPW, there certainly is. But with the Rose Parade, with CNN, it's a marketing, it's a media buy. It's like if you said, people say, I know that you get a lot of this in Tallahassee. Well, why do you have to market? Everybody knows who you are. Well, everybody knows who Coca-Cola is too, but they're still on TV all the time because there's so much competition, and the only way to separate yourself is to do something that no one else is doing. And that's what we've done for the past few years. And it's been fun too. I have to say, it's been fun.
Oh, great job. Also to Stacy's credit, she brought business intelligence to Visit Lauderdale and making sound decisions and bringing really some of the brightest people there in order to make decisions based on facts and based on data. And it has been incredible. But I want to look forward right now for the last segment. We have about 3 minutes left. How is our destination going to change in tourism? Because I would think, with the convention center hotel expansion of the convention, our segmentations will change going down the line. What do you see?
First of all, let me say that no leader does this alone. I am the face. And my marketing and PR people, my team, they tell me what to say, they tell me where to go, and they tell me to smile. Now, yes, I'm a smart woman, and I can make the words my own, but I'm sorry? Thank you. I am a smart woman. You can't, look, I don't mean to be immodest, but you can't do 30 years of public service and survive without, I don't like to say I'm a lawyer, Nikki, it's the bad part. But it really does. And the people that I've hired are smarter than I am. and I am secure enough to know that it is okay to hire smarter people, because at the end of the day, they make you look better. So there's that. As it relates to business, there's no question that with an expanded convention center in the hotel, you're going to be able to bring business that you would never even thought about before. I mean, we spend time at the CVB and in meetings thinking of verticals that pharmaceutical industry, which they spend a lot of money, medical industry, those doctors spend a lot of money when they come here. And while it's not just about the bottom line, because we have a beautiful destination to sell, the bottom line is that the bottom line is important. You see it in your business, and while we don't generate the tax, we only spend it, which is nice. We don't have a revenue manager. The ones who do generate it and then entrust it to us are critically important, and they need to know that we are thoughtfully and deliberatively coming up with a plan to increase business here and make sure that next year we have more visitors than we did this year, and the year after that we have more visitors than in 27. It's not done with a hope and a prayer. It is done with data and with thought and deliberation and lots of communication, and I don't think there's any other way to do it where you can be successful.
And we're getting kind of to the end. So one last question for you. Stacy is retiring in a year, and going to be interesting what your perspective is for your replacement. If you had some advice for your replacement, what would be the advice for your replacement?
I would not.
I mean, don't say brass balls.
Well, I think that's a given. So I would not presume to suggest what my successor should look like. I don't think that's fair. No offense to the question. I mean, I had one in my head, but it isn't my decision. It's up to the county administrator. She's going to decide what she's going to decide. And the next person will just do it differently. Just as I did it differently from my predecessor, it will just be different. But I don't think whoever that person is going to do it with any less love or dedication than I brought to the table when I was fortunate enough to be presented with this opportunity 10 years ago. So I wish he or she or they luck. And it's a hard question, you know, when retirement.
That's a great answer, by the way.
When retirement is looming, it is very bittersweet. But I believe that I've left that person with an incredible team and a machine that works, that is well oiled, and it will be a much more seamless transition than I had 10 years ago. At least that's what I hope over the next few months to continue to achieve, so that that person just walks in and doesn't have to worry about, is the money spent well, and what's the budget look like, and are we following county policies and procedures, because that's already been taken care of, and we'll just bring the vision of whatever comes next to fruition.
Well, let's hear it for Stacy. Congratulations on an amazing career. Great journey here on Visit Lauderdale, and what you've done for the state as well and for the county. Amazing. Thank you very much.